Close your eyes for a moment and think back to your childhood. Who were you before the world told you how to be? And also before you learned to silence your needs, to be strong for others, to hold in your emotions, because that's just life. Today, I want to speak to the part of you that still exists, the inner child inside, who is still waiting to be seen, to be loved, and most of all, to be healed. Because no matter how old you are today, your inner child is still influencing how you love, how you trust, and how you set boundaries. And most importantly of all, how you love yourself. I really look forward to today's episode. And while you're here, remember to subscribe, stay up to date, and join me every Wednesday for our free weekly masterclasses at matmasterclass.com. Now, this raises an important question: why the inner child still remains within us? Because did you know that the emotional experiences that you had as a child still lives inside your nervous system? Your brain is almost like a time machine. It stores every major emotional experience in your limbic system. That is the part that is responsible for your memory and emotions. Now, here's what happens. When you were a child, your brain was still developing, specifically the prefrontal cortex, which actually helps to process logic and emotion. Now, without this fully developed part of your brain, you internalized experiences as truth instead of just events. So, if you, for example, felt unloved, your brain coded as I am unworthy of love. And if you felt abandoned, your brain coded that as I cannot rely on anyone. And if you felt like a burden, your brain coded that as I must always put others first. Now, unless we revisit and rewire these beliefs, they still influence our adult life today. So if you've ever wondered why you struggle with self-worth, why you are a people pleaser, why love feels so unsafe, and also why you might fear rejection, it's because your inner child is still holding on to those beliefs. But here's the good news. You can reparent yourself, and I'll show you today how. So let's first of all look at signs that your inner child could still be wounded. You might struggle with self-worth. You were maybe made to feel small and maybe not good enough. You seek validation from other people, and you didn't maybe receive emotional security growing up. You might fear abandonment or rejection because love was inconsistent and also very conditional. You overfunction in relationships, which means that maybe you had to earn love by being useful as a child. You might also be suppressing your emotions instead of expressing them, which means that maybe you learned that feelings just were not safe. Your body and behaviors are telling a story. And that is a story that started when you were young, but it doesn't have to control you forever. The moment you recognize these patterns, you have the power to heal them. And if this episode is really speaking to you, then you will love this book, Reclaiming Your Inner Light. You can have a look at evettebooks.com or on Kindle on Amazon. This deeply speaks to upbringing and trauma and challenges during a person's childhood. And I pretty much use my childhood as an example here and as a core foundation. There's a lot to be said and also a lot to be looked at from very different perspectives as well. Now, the big question is, how do we start healing? How do we start to reparent ourselves, to give ourselves the love and the security and understanding that we needed but didn't receive as a child? So here are 3 steps that actually really truly can work. Step number 1, and one that really helped me, was to speak to your inner child with compassion. If you could go back and meet your inner self, what would you say? Would you criticize them? Tell them to get over it? Or would you hold them and tell them you are enough, just as you are? And you didn't deserve the pain that you went through. and you are safe now. You see, your inner child still needs to hear these words from you. So here's an action step, only if you wish to try. You can write a letter to your younger self, acknowledging their pain and telling them what they needed to hear. Step 2 is rewire the nervous system stress response, because healing isn't just about thinking differently. It's about changing how your body reacts to old wounds as well. Because many of us, we live in fight and flight and freeze mode because our nervous system is stuck in survival patterns from our childhood. So when you were a child, you might have adapted to a lot of emotional pain by people pleasing, right? To avoid rejection, shutting down, to avoid being hurt, and being overly independent because no one was reliable. But these survival patterns, they don't necessarily serve you anymore. So an action step here that you can take is to try grounding exercises. And you can do this, for example, by placing your hand on your heart. You can close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say to yourself, I am safe, I'm loved, and I trust myself right now. You see, your nervous system needs to feel safe in order to let go of patterns. And changing your narrative is also very important, because you're not that child anymore. And the most powerful shift happens when you realize that you have now moved into a life, into new circumstances where you can now be the creator. You're no longer small. You're no longer powerless. And you have the ability now to choose differently. You see, your past does not have to define your future. And remember also that your past doesn't need you, your future does. And what you can do is you can ask yourself, what would your life look like if you no longer carried this wound? What does your inner child need from you today? Because remember, healing is not about erasing the past. It's about becoming who you always were meant to be. So just to share with you here a final thought, because if you've made it this far, I want you to know that your healing journey matters. You're not broken. You're not unworthy. You are the creator of your life. So some reflective questions that I would like to ask you is, what is one thing that my inner child still needs to hear? And what is one old belief that I am ready to let go of? And the last one is, how can I show myself love today? So there you have it. Drop in the comments bar if you would like to share some thoughts, ideas that came to you, anything that you just want to share with us as well, and what you also appreciated or liked the most about today's episode. And remember also to subscribe, stay up to date, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Thank you for your love, your time, and your energy. I love you. And until next time, be the light that you are. And remember, if you want to learn more about stored emotions in the body and how they can even be hiding behind ailments, tension, pain, negative thoughts, beliefs, any challenges that you're having in your body, there's going to be stored messages. So remember to go grab your copy of Metaphysical Anatomy. It's a big book of 722 medical ailments, and then the emotions that are suppressed behind them as well. You'll be also finding powerful questions in this book that can really truly help you to get started on your healing journey. And you can find your copy at evettebooks.com.